Tonight, we straighten our tuxedo shirts, load the tranquilizer darts, and ask one very important question: shaken, stirred, or silenced? Welcome back to another matchup from Who Would Win Masters. I'm Sam Proof on all the socials, and in this episode, representing Konami, the tactical genius who renewed his Amazon Prime subscription for real out-of-the-box warfare, it's Solid Snake. And representing Eon Productions, the spy who just got out of the bath to be here, Agent 007, it's James Bond. I can't put my gold finger on it right now, but I have the odd job of opening my jaws to introduce our guest debater. Our guest tonight, straight from our listening community, is author, YouTuber, once and future gamer, Oliver Lowe. Oliver, welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight?
I'm pretty good, thanks, Sam. Glad to be here.
All right, now you are representing James Bond. Why did you pick this character?
Well, probably my favourite film franchise of all time, to be fair. Plus, you know, there's that English thing, so here we are.
Excellent. I know, I feel like you're classing up the place. All right, let's bring that down and get into our tale of the tape. Tonight's tale of the tape is brought to you by Car Headlights. Nope. Tonight's tale of the tape is brought to you by car headlights that are not brighter than the sun. Hey, you've probably driven your car on roads, maybe even sometimes at night. Next time you think about illumination, consider buying headlights that are not brighter than the sun. I see you asking yourself, but how will I fully see the Jack-in-the-Box drive-thru at 3 a.m. without headlights that have lumen levels that rival neutron stars? Well, I'm here to tell you, you're going to be just fine. And also, other people with eyes exist. Car headlights that are not brighter than the sun? Try some today. Okay, today's matchup is a real hardcore match of spy versus spy without fedoras, of course. On one side, we have James Bond, perhaps the most famous fictional spy of all time, created by Ian Fleming. This MI6 agent with a license to kill appeared in the novel Casino Royale in 1953. From there, he's appeared in countless movies, books, and comics, and even an animated series in the 90s called James Bond Jr. Cunning, dashing, with a dry wit and a drier martini, James Bond is a generational star who will no doubt be with us for decades to come. And on the other side, we have Solid Snake. Now, Solid Snake is the greatest stealth operative in video game history. Created by Hideo Kojima, Snake first appeared in the NES classic Metal Gear back in 1987, carrying future tech for his missions to neutralize giant nuclear-armed mechs called Metal Gear. Snake is brought in to infiltrate and eliminate as many times as the world needs him. That is the basics of both combatants. So let's introduce your opponent for today, Ollie. He's big, he's bold, and he lost his indoor voice at some point in early childhood. It's Ray Stakenas. Ray, how are you feeling about this battle today?
I am excited about this international battle that we have going on. Ollie, thank you for sending your demo into the show. I notice you talk different than the rest of us. Are you Canadian?
Definitely not. Definitely not. Definitely not. So I'm from England, from a little town called Barnsley up in the north of England. So if you're expecting, hello there, what's how old be? You're not getting any of that, unfortunately.
Well, here's the deal. I am very excited to open up the borders, if you will, of the Who Would Win Masters show and get people from across the pond to be a part. The goal is to, and you know, Mr. Beast probably did it first. The goal is to have a debate against one person from every country on Earth. So send me your takes, Nepal. Tell me what's going on, Mongolia. I'm here for you. Who Would Win Masters International Series is now wide open. And I'm just saying right now, if you're in Australia and you want to debate Crocodile Dundee or debate against Crocodile Dundee, I do not care. We can do it, but you got to send that demo to whowouldwinmasters@gmail.com.
Yeah, and he's Yahoo serious about this.
Look, everybody loves them some Crocodile Dundee. Everybody loves some young Einstein. It's an incredible fight, and that I would love to be front row and center for.
All right, we could keep naming Australian comedians and actors, but let's get into our rules in under a minute.
That's right, Sam. We're men at work here.
Mm.
I thought it was funny.
Here's the rules in under a minute.
Here are your rules for Who Would Win Masters in 1 minute. Number 1, there will be 3 timed rounds with counterpoints allowed. Number 2, characters will have no prior knowledge of their opponent and no outside interference will be allowed. Number 3, keep the characters in character. Outliers and crossovers will be given less weight. Number 4, battles can be won by death, knockout, battlefield removal, or incapacitation. And number 5, after the battle, I will give my unofficial opinion as to who wins and why. However, I am just one voice. It will be up to all of you on our social media and our Patreon to make your voices heard as to who won. All right, it is time to get into the battle. Ollie, as our guest, you will start us off with your point number 1. 3 minutes on the clock, starting now.
Okay, point number 1 for James Bond then. So, before joining MI6, Bond was trained by the Special Boat Service, Royal Navy Special Forces. They go through the same training as the SAS, but training more specialised to their aquatic environment. British Special Forces are widely regarded as the best in the world, to the point that a lot of other countries use them as their base model. The aptitude test for Special Forces is pretty grueling to determine physical and mental aptitude. Bond aced them all, so good at training exercises that even his training instructors couldn't locate him. That's his base before MI6. Bond is excellent at reading people. He's a gambler that can recognise tells very quickly. He's going to work Snake out in short order, as he can recognise professionals when he sees them. Snake, meanwhile, comes from a world where enemies wear uniforms, and we always associate Bond with the tuxedo. Snake likes to talk, and talking is the worst thing he could do in this battle, since Bond has a history of making allies of enemies. I'm not saying it would be resolved peacefully, but Bond's quite a charming individual. He's got more chance of doing it than vice versa. Bond consistently uses stealth to get around. He invades facilities, army bases, drug labs, etc., causes havoc when he gets in there. Sometimes he does bluff his way in through the front door. Sometimes he'll swim up with a fake duck on his head and evade his way through armies to complete his mission. He's evaded both MI6 and CIA hit teams in the past. If you want to know what someone with Bond's training can do when cut loose under his own initiative and license to kill, he dismantled the drug lord's empire in just a few days by getting them all to turn on each other. For unarmed combat, he likes to favour a mix of judo, boxing, wrestling, and street fighting. He likes to use throws, chokes, headbutts, likes to get people on the ground and hit them, as well as using environmental and improvised weapons. In Casino Royale, he takes on 2 African warlords armed with machetes in a stairwell, uses all those techniques here. He also has a long history of winning fights while underwater. He's also a master of melee weapons, including clubs, knives, and swords, to the point he was able to outduel Gustav Graves in Die Another Day, who was trained by a gold medal Olympic fencer. If you just for an example of improvisation in the environment, in Octopussy, he was fighting the henchman on top of a plane, snapped the plane's aerial into his face, and watched him plummet. Just on durability and willpower, in the films, he was tortured for 14 months in North Korea. That's one of the many places you don't want to be tortured. We felt his pain because we had to listen to a mediocre Madonna song while he was being tortured. He was tortured by Le Chiffre in Casino Royale. He didn't break. He was dragged behind a boat in For Your Eyes Only. He survived several car crashes. He shrugged off being poisoned, got shot twice in Skyfall, plus suffered a 100-foot drop into water. He
30
survived.
seconds remaining.
He's been slashed. He's managed to get out of being grabbed in holes. He's shrugged off being electrocuted. He's been burned. He even managed to stop his own heart through sheer willpower in order to escape captivity. Now, Bond also has a license to kill, as Sam's already mentioned. He doesn't enjoy killing, but he doesn't hesitate to do it. Best example of him being willing to kill in the line of duty is Electra King in The World Is Not Enough. He killed her in cold blood to stop her giving a warning out to the other bad guy. Now, he previously had a physical relationship with her. She thought that he wouldn't shoot her, and he did. Now, saying Metal Gear Solid, one of the things that Snake comes out and said, he said it himself, killing is something that does get better.
On to you with Solid Snake. Your point number 1, 3 minutes on the clock. Starting now.
Man, that was a lot of very good information being brought in. But, I really get the vibe based on everything that you said, Ollie. If you want somebody to go in and destabilize the situation, you send in James Bond. If you want somebody to go in and destroy a situation, you send in Solid Snake. And this isn't who would destabilize. This is who would win. And let's talk about some of the gear of Solid Snake, because while James Bond does have some good tech, I think Solid Snake has the advantage when it comes to future tech. We start with the Soliton radar system. And that's what he uses sort of in game terms, but in story terms as well. It allows him to see all the locations of all the nearby enemies on a little mini map, as well as any cameras and the directions that they're pointed. He also can tell which way his enemies are facing and whether or not they are alerted to his presence. But he has more than just the Soliton radar system, the SRS, if you will. He has stealthy claymores. He's a guy who works in stealth. And I don't know that James Bond may ever see it coming after their initial face-to-face confrontation, because Solid Snake can put down these claymores, front towards enemy, boom the other side. Punisher uses these a lot, but these are special stealthy ones that can blend into their environment. So all James Bond has to do is walk the wrong direction and he's blown to Kingdom Come. Her Majesty's Kingdom Come. Look, Snake's main weapon in the games is the SOCOM 45 ACP combat pistol with a laser sight and a suppressor. Very good pistol. We'll get into his other weapons in just a moment, because he also has the Solid Eye. It's an eye patch-like device that can not only act as binoculars, but it can also serve as night vision goggles. Solid Snake, again, he's going to be working in stealth. He's going to be kind of behind enemy lines. He very easily could shoot out all the lights, and if he does so, what is James Bond going to do to see? Snake has an answer for it. I don't think James does. And he can provide, also the Solid Eye will provide Snake on how well his camouflage is doing in a moment. So if he's sticking out, he'll know. That's why he's good at stealth. He also has nano machines in his blood, making him sort of a little super soldiery. It can offer him painkillers if the trauma gets too much. It can also regenerate his adrenaline, his sugars, and his nutrition. Let's talk about his sneaking suit. You're right. James Bond wears a tuxedo, but the tuxedo doesn't necessarily have the great armor. He doesn't wear Kingpin's tuxedo. Meanwhile, Solid Snake has a suit made specifically for sneaking up on people and taking them out. The suit can actually heal him, as well as provide Octo Camo, which can provide him instant camouflage against any surface he's standing in front of. And it also offers him some bullet protection as well. The last piece of gear to talk about is the greatest tranquilizer pistol in video game history, the M9 Tranquilizer, because anybody can get hit with a dart and get KO'd in one hit. And that's not even getting into, I lied, his best piece of equipment of all time, a cardboard box. Get it done.
All right, Ollie, you have 60 seconds to counterpoint, starting now.
Okay, so I love that you brought up the radar, Ray. So here is the fun fact about that. Yes, it does show where enemies are. It does show the line of sight on easier difficulties. Fun fact about the radar, it goes into a combat situation. That radar does not work. So what's he going to do in that circumstance? The mines, Bond is a master of his environment. I'm going to cover that in a further point. So I think he could potentially stop them. The cardboard box, I don't think that's going to be a factor. So a lot of the opponents that Snake goes up again, they're VR trained. They don't have actual physical battle experience. They're not expecting people to pull tricks like that. Bond's not being trained on, it's not a large-sized video game. Bond has had a lot of experience. He's done the real thing. He's been in those combat situations. So the cardboard box, not going to be a massive help. Plus, that sneaking suit, I don't think it's as bulletproof as you make it out to be. And plus, it's not going to stop him getting shot in the head if that happens. Sorry, kids. The nano machines, again, Snake's had a bit of an issue with those in the past. They're not always the most helpful thing possible.
All right, gentlemen, this is a really strong start with a lot of interesting tech and stealth abilities. And yeah, I don't know. I know Snake prefers to stay in the shadows. Bond prefers things shaken, but we prefer things sponsored. So we'll be back after this. All right, we're just scratching the surface on this battle, so let's get back into it with our point number 2. Ollie, you will start us off with 3 minutes on the clock, starting now.
So, we've kind of covered this already, but Bond, extremely good marksman, expert in using handguns, assault rifles, machine guns, shotguns, explosives, and throwing knives even. If it shoots, he can use it. He's also a skilled sniper, has been seen using the weapon several times, to the point that he once shot a rifle out of another sniper's hands. Incredibly quick off the draw. He had to turn and shoot the guy in the bathroom at the start of Casino Royale before he got shot himself. In GoldenEye, he managed to turn and shoot General Ourumov while he had a hostage. This wasn't with a handgun, this was with an AK-47. Now, the weight of a loaded AK-47 is about 4.5 kilograms. That's sort of the weight of an average domestic cat. He managed to nail the general with automatic fire and not hit the hostage. He also managed to get the draw on Miranda Frost, a trained MI6 agent in Die Another Day, when she had a gun pointed at him. Technically, he has drawn down on someone pointing a gun at him 25 times in the opening gun barrel scene. He's killed them all. Let's talk about gadgets. Most of them are admittedly one-offs, but let's talk about what we have seen a few times. Gadgets aren't going to win fights on their own, but they do give him an edge. Let's talk about the watch. The most common gadgets in the watch are it acts as a transmitter, a receiver, a homing device, etc. He could use that as a distraction. Bond is known to carry explosives. I'm not saying have an exploding pen or key fob, but maybe he does have some remote mines on him, which of course he can trigger with the watch. He might be able to lure Snake into a trap. Another watch feature that's been seen a few times is the laser cutting tool, so he could potentially cut a hole in a wall or the floor to escape or make a trap, since Snake has a history of falling into holes. There's also been instances where he's been seen carrying stun devices, mainly hidden in his phone, but we've also seen variants of it in his watch, plus with devices in video games. Pretty handy in close combat. We know Snake's not immune to electricity. Just for Sam's benefit, Bond's also been known to have a grappling hook, either in his belt or an actual grappling gun. Things go wrong, he can get to the higher ground. Now, in terms of guns, Bond is known for carrying the Walther PPK, but he's also carried other weapons, including the Walther P99. In a lot of instances, he's been known to carry both weapons. He's also been known to carry knives about his person. Now, Bond is a master of vehicles. He's associated with his cars, and although there's been different ones, he's mainly associated with the Aston Martin DB5, complete with machine guns, oil slicks, rear bulletproof shield. I'm not saying it may play a huge part in the battle, but it may do. Some versions of the car also have rockets. I know Snake took out a tank and regularly blows up larger vehicles, but he's not expecting the car to be rocking weapons. Now, in short, none of this stuff Snake will expect. Tech does seem to be more advanced in the Metal Gear universe, but there's not a lot of turning everyday items into weapons. So that happens. Snake's going to get caught by surprise.
30 seconds remaining.
He's not going to be expecting that. Now, basically, we have seen that Bond's racked up quite a huge body count over the course of the movies. Now, the exact body count is not really being seen. I did sort of watch a YouTube video on it. It's sort of estimated about high 500s, low 600s. That's just what we've seen as a speculative guess. That's just from the movies, not including video games, books, etc., etc. So basically, if it comes down to it, he is not going to hesitate to make that decision if it has to do it. One of the fun facts about James Bond.
All right, Ray, time for your point number 2. 3 minutes on the clock, starting now.
That's right. Our timer doesn't hold for fun facts. You got to use your rebuttals for those. We're going to talk about the training and the stats. And I love the idea that you think that Solid Snake is going to get caught into a trap by James Bond. I've seen James Bond get captured like at least twice every movie he's ever done. If anybody's going to fall into a trap and get caught, it's James Bond, because that is sort of exactly what he does in every single movie I've ever seen. Look, we're going to talk a little bit about the training and the raw stats and physicality of Solid Snake, because Solid Snake is stated to possess custom and specific soldier genes from Big Boss. Big Boss being, sort of he's a clone, basically. He's a super soldier clone of a character named Big Boss, who it turns out looks exactly like him. Crazy. I guess that's because he's a clone. I guess that now that I put it together in my head, it makes sense. Anyway, he's trained to be superior to normal humans. His big training in combat is CQC, and CQC stands for Close Quarters Combat, which means if he is standing next to you in like a phone booth situation, he knows a move to drop you. If he is within 2 feet of you, he has 15 ideas of how to take you out quickly. It was a specialized system that was developed by both Big Boss and The Boss, Kojima and his names. They're delightful. It combines judo-based grappling, throwing, joint locks, and armed strikes. In other words, it's sort of like a gun fu, if you will, that involves a lot of karate and judo flips and throws. Great. But on top of just that, Solid Snake is a black belt in 32 forms of combat. he is both a Green Beret and a Foxhound operative. And those are some pretty good trainings as far as combat goes in combat situations. Oh, did I mention he knows how to use every firearm ever made on Earth? Why, yes, he does. He might as well be a member of G.I. Joe at that point, quite frankly. But the biggest thing that he's known for doing is stealth. He is a stealth warrior. He can blend into surfaces, wait and be patient, and hang out till his moment arrives, and then strike with deadly accuracy. The big key for me in this battle is, if they're just fighting face to face, I still think Solid Snake wins 6 times out of 10. But if they take a couple shots and then Solid Snake suddenly disappears, James Bond isn't going to know how to find him. He's not a stealth operative. He is not somebody who can root out people who are trying to hide particularly well. I couldn't find a lot of examples of it. But Solid Snake coming out, using his stealth suit, coming out of the shadows, taking out all the lights, that's what Solid Snake would probably do in a fight like this. But his physicality is off the roof. He's much stronger and more durable than an average man. He can lift and throw grown men tens of feet across the way. Meryl, a character, she fell from seemingly 10 stories high, and he caught her with no problem. And I swear to God, I think Solid Snake is immune to explosions. I saw him standing right next to some C4 when it went off, and nothing happened to him.
All right, Ali, you have 1 minute for your rebuttal. 60 seconds on the clock, starting now.
Okay, just to run down your list of points. So you mentioned about Bond getting captured. All part of the plan, Ray. All in a day's work. You've mentioned about the soldier genes. Now, very fun fact about that. There is a codec conversation at the end of the first Metal Gear Solid where Naomi Hunter says, oh yes, injecting a bunch of soldier genes into someone does not make him a superior soldier. Now, also fun about the things. Snake is a clone. Those genes, they are actually breaking his body down as it happens. So I'm not necessarily sure at this point that it is actually going to be as effective as he's going to say. CQC has spent most of the series refusing to use it because of its association with the boss. If you want to talk about catching women, well, I don't think Snake's got Bond beat in that respect, but not part of the battle. This all sounds really, really exerting what Snake's doing here. Now, I think it is worth mentioning that Snake is a heavy smoker. So, yeah, is he really going to be able to keep it out? I've timed this. Metal Gear Solid, if you smoke continuously, Snake dies in 2 minutes. That sounds really super to me.
That smoker fact was an interesting one. Did you? Well, I'd like to explore that more.
There's a lot of interesting stuff in the Metal Gear series. At one point, Solid Snake fights, this is a freebie, Solid Snake fights a guy who's so old that if you just turn off the console and come back 2 weeks later, he dies of old age.
That's awesome.
These games are incredible.
Well, cool. That second point was even more loaded with facts than the first one. This is like just a really full cardboard box of fun, if you will. But that's not the only thing getting delivered today. We've got some messages from our sponsors. All right, let's unpack this third and final point. Ali, take us into it. You've got 3 minutes on the clock, starting now.
Point number 3 then. So, Bond, absolute master of the environment and use it to his advantage. Bond has fought in pretty much every environment imaginable. He's fought in deserts, he's fought in jungles, he's fought in urban environments, he's fought in snow, he's fought underwater, he's fought in volcanoes, he's even fought in space. He's great at finding weapons in his environment to improvise. Great situational awareness. It makes him very, very hard to sneak up on. There's a guy in a tree in Moonraker who tried to shoot him unaware. It didn't go well for him. Somebody tried it in Tomorrow Never Dies. Again, died very quickly. So what chance has Snake got of sneaking up on him? And let's face it, that's Snake's main trick. Just on the environment, though, if there is animals about, Snake regularly gets attacked by wolves and wildlife. Bond beat a python in combat and once told a tiger to sit, and it did. In combat, Bond likes to destroy helicopters. He did it in From Russia with Love with a sniper rifle. He's also taken a helicopter out with an emergency flare in A View to a Kill and a washing line in Tomorrow Never Dies. He also shot one once with a pistol in Spectre and it crashed, incredibly. He also once took out a fighter jet by ejecting a human being into it from below. Now, into who would win circumstances, when reacting in a surprise battle against an opponent he had no idea about, Bond was ambushed by Red Grant in From Russia with Love, and despite Grant surprising him and probably being physically stronger, Bond managed to outthink him. He overcame him. He didn't have a huge amount of knowledge about Oddjob before his final confrontation with him, other than he was strong enough to crush golf balls and had a sharp hat. He was again outmatched and had to use trickery in the environment. On the subject of being outmatched and having to use the environment, he has several victories over Jaws, who was physically stronger and apparently unbeatable until Bond beat him. He then turned him to his side in the end. He also has victories over Alec Trevelyan in GoldenEye and Raoul Silver in Skyfall, both former MI6 agents with similar levels of training to him. Trevelyan even believed he was better than Bond until it turned out that he wasn't. Bond also defeated and killed Scaramanga, the greatest assassin in the world at the time. He managed to evade him and outsmarted him on his own turf, using his own stealth skills in an environment that Scaramanga controlled and had outside help. Also, under Who Would Win rules, Bond has defeated a god in combat, Baron Samedi in Live and Let Die, and incapacitated him for way more than 2 minutes. In summary, Bond has a psychological advantage. He's faster on the draw. He's not going to hesitate if he needs to put Snake down. If he turns into a battle of stealth, he's going to be able to deal with Snake far more competently than most of the cannon fodder enemies Snake has to deal with. Snake may have dealt with more huge robots than Bond, but Bond isn't fighting a Metal Gear. He's fighting Solid Snake, and Snake isn't anything Bond
30 seconds remaining.
Yeah. I think Bond is more than capable of outshooting him and outfighting him using the examples given. Bond has experience of different environments. Now, there is even that chance that Bond could talk him down. I don't think it's a huge chance because we don't want to see a pretty little conversation, but it's a possibility. If this fight goes to the death, though, we know how this goes. Roy Campbell is going to be screaming for Snake to answer him at the game over screen because ultimately, in the end, Bond is going to come out on top. He has plenty of victories over taking out the Metal Gears, which I'm sure are going to come up in Ray's third point. He has more consistent victories over more impressive opponents on the frequently.
All right, Ray, it is time for your third and final point. 3 minutes on the clock starting now.
Ollie, get out of my head. Of course, you know where I'm going with this third point. We're going to talk about some of the greatest things he's done and the intangibles that make Solid Snake Solid Snake. Look, Solid Snake possesses an IQ of 180 and he's fluent in 6 languages. I don't know how that compares to James Bond. I just know it's slightly higher than mine, just by a skosh. Infiltrating top secret high-tech installations and destroying nuclear-equipped Metal Gears is what Solid Snake does for fun. As a spy goes, he hides, around people. He makes sure he's not seen, and he's like a ghost in and out. James Bond shows up in a white tuxedo, getting hammered on martinis and flirting with every lady who comes within 25 feet of him. I'm just saying, as far as spy stuff goes, Snake is the real deal. Let's talk about some of the people that he's beaten first. Solid Snake, because he's beaten Big Boss. Big Boss is the greatest warrior of the 20th century, according to the Metal Gear series. And Solid Snake's beaten him twice. First in the original Metal Gear, and then again in Metal Gear 2, the sequel, the follow-up. It doesn't matter even if James Bond has more experience, because Big Boss sure did. It didn't matter because Solid Snake was able to bring him down. Let's see here. We've also got Gray Fox, who is considered one of the deadliest soldiers in history. Snake, once again, beat him twice. Beat him while he was in a Metal Gear giant robot in Metal Gear 2, and then later in Metal Gear Solid, fighting hand-to-hand in a minefield. Not a place you normally would want to bring out the combat. Look, his genetic twin, Liquid Snake, defeated him multiple times. He has beaten, Solid Snake. Look, there's a lot of different snakes. Naked Snake, Liquid Snake, Solid. There's a lot of different snakes out there. They're all the same clones. And Solid Snake stands above them because he keeps dropping them one after another after another. But I'm glad you brought up sniper battles and the really interesting one that James Bond has, because there are 3 sniper battles from Solid Snake's realm. First off, Sniper Wolf from the original Metal Gear Solid, and they were going back and forth where he had to pick off somebody who's like the most elite sniper of all time. But he ended up having to also do a battle against The End, that old guy that I talked about earlier. If you don't want to wait 2 weeks, you got to sneak up on this guy wearing full camouflage, hiding in a forest, and then sniping him as well. And also Quiet, the other greatest sniper in history, which was in Metal Gear Part 5. Not only that, in Ingenuity, Psycho Mantis. He had to plug his controller into port number 2 to avoid this Psycho Mantis character who could read minds from reading his minds. But also, he beat a Big Boss with an improvised lighter. He grabs a lighter, some lacquer spray, and turns it into a flamethrower. A flamethrower, so he can pick up his environment to take it out as well. And he's beaten 4 different Metal Gear, giant nuclear-armed robots, that being Metal Gear TX-55, Metal Gear D, Metal Gear Rex, and my favorite, Metal Gear Ray. Probably the most difficult to defeat Metal Gear in history. I assume that that's true purely by name alone.
All right, Ollie, it is time for your third and final counterpoint. 60 seconds on the clock for your rebuttal, starting now.
Oh, I am so glad you brought up some of these points. So Snake does have an IQ of 180. The whole story of Metal Gear Solid is he does seem to get fooled a lot. He got fooled by Decoy Octopus. He got fooled by Liquid Snake posing as Master Miller. Now, yes, he has blown up a lot of Metal Gears. However, how much of that was with outside help from the engineers? Metal Gear Rex, he had the actual ninja helping by exposing these sensitive bits. He's not beaten Big Boss twice. He's beaten Big Boss once. The first time was a decoy. Yes, the second time he beat Grey Fox. The Grey Fox was very psychologically damaged and wanted to die. He was overwhelmed by Solidus and ended up captured. It was Raiden that killed him. The end. I'm really glad that you brought the end up, Ray, because that wasn't Solid Snake. That was Naked Snake, who was actually Big Boss in Metal Gear Solid 3. On the subject of that, what's the whole idea with Snake being sidelined in his own series, by the way? Same with the Quiet. Metal Gear Solid 5, not Solid Snake. Also, Psycho Mantis. How many of these characters did he want outside help again? How would Snake know to do that if he didn't have Roy Campbell on the codec telling him, oh, yes, this is how you do it. You need to plug it in. You need to destroy the statues with the masks on. So, yeah, a lot of these results, outside help, which you won't have.
All right. Well, there is no outside help for Ray as he delivers his final thought. Of course, Ray has not had any counterpoints throughout the show, so this is his one and only chance to get the last word in whenever you're ready.
You know what? I added the end to this battle as we were talking about it because I was like, how did that not make my notes? It didn't make my notes because you're right. The whole game you think you're playing as Solid Snake and trying to figure out what's going on, but you're actually playing the boss character. That is well spotted, Ollie, and I will concede that point back to you, but that's not enough for you to actually win. That just means I shouldn't add notes I already know are wrong because I thought they would be a good idea in the middle of the time. Solid Snake has fought a higher class of people. I would agree that in both cases, they're almost cartoonishly villain characters, but I would argue that as great as the Bond and the Ian Fleming in the movies take some of these villains and their levels of evil and awesomeness, Kojima builds upon that legacy in order to create something that's 2 steps even more ridiculous. And that's what Solid Snake ends up taking on in his universe. I don't think this battle ends in death. I'll go ahead and say it. I think this battle will end in a form of incapacitation one way or another, because neither of these characters necessarily wants to have to kill the other one. They just need to dispatch them. And that's where I think Solid Snake definitely has some stronger advantages. I do think that he's better at fighting in combat, close combat, than James Bond is. I think the CQC is a little bit more than that. And I've done it with Solid Snake a million times. Whether he wants to or not, I make him do it. So that's how I feel about that. But I think it's that tranquilizer pistol that all he has to do is get a shot from the shadows as you're walking by or even from a distance, and you're asleep in roughly, 3 to 5 seconds? I don't think James Bond has extra physicality that would, look, I've seen in Casino Royale where he got poisoned in the follow-up one, and he had to go jumpstart his heart in the car in one of the coolest sequences I've ever seen in a movie. I loved it. But I don't think that's going to stop James Bond for going 1, 2, 3 down for the count for 2 minutes or more when he gets hit with the ZZZ above his head, because the tranquilizer pistol takes him down. I hate that I had to use like 30 seconds of my 2 minutes to end the show to say I was wrong about something, and I knew it, and I knew it coming in, and I did it anyway. And I'm so mad at myself. Ollie, you got over in that regard. I don't know how Sam's gonna do it, but you've tilted me.
Yeah, this was fan-friggin-tastic, guys. I, going into this, had no idea what to expect, but there is a lot to unpack here. I'm glad this isn't going to go on any longer because we would need a license to chill, but I will be right back with my decision.
2 figures met in collision. Now let's find out who would win. It's time to hear Sam's decision.
Guys, this match had me both shaken and stirred, and it was way closer than I even thought it was going to be. I fully expected to come into this ready to dismiss a full cabinet of Q's specialized tricks and tech, but Ollie held off on possible devices and stuck to Bond's most used equipment. I do think chances are, as we've seen in previous battles, Snake probably won't have a lot of time or opportunity to set up and activate a Claymore, but he does come to the table with some amazing tech of his own, including stuff in his own body. Ollie, you did something that we haven't seen before on the show, which is you made Ray concede a point, and you should consider that a win right there. But in my mind, the thing that I didn't hear a good argument against was defeating Snake's nanomachines that act as painkillers and an adrenaline booster. Laser watch or not, I think this episode comes to you from Russia with sleep, as Snake takes a Trank Dark to make short work of this. I'm going to give this to Metal Gear Ray Almighty. So congratulations. But again, I am just one voice in this. It is up to the community to voice their opinions on our Patreon with their vote. Thank you so much for being on the show, Ollie. Do you have any thoughts on this? I'm sorry I couldn't rally for you. It was really close. It really was amazing. Like, you power packed this thing.
Yeah. No worries. Ray, congratulations. Yeah, I guess completely forgot to bring up a counter to the M9, so that's obviously my bad. So yeah. Hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I'll say right now, I'm a little bit nervous for the fan vote as well. I think Ollie captured something here, and I think Ollie has an entire nation behind him. There is an entire country of people that will be rallying to patreon.com/whowouldwinmasters to try to oppose us. I'm not trying to say all of the Americans who listen to this show that it's your patriotic responsibility to go on to Patreon and make sure that I retain this clean victory of Solid Snake versus James Bond. But I'm saying, are you really a true American patriot if you don't?
Wow. Listen, I welcome a flood of UK listeners backing Ollie if it means we get more people on the Patreon, free or paid. So go for it.
Doesn't matter. That's right.
All right.
Ollie, where can people find you and find your projects that you've been working on?
I'm on YouTube at Once and Future Game, a lot of video game related stuff there, Let's Plays, challenges, stuff like that. I'm also an author on Amazon at OGA Low, so yeah, check it out. Yeah. You can also find me on Instagram at Once and Future Gamer, so yeah, I'll say if you want to say hello, say hello.
Absolutely. Right, you should go check that out. He's obviously very knowledgeable when it comes to the world of video games.
Yeah.
And he would have to be to try to get me. I'm still like shell shocked by that moment. And it was a self-own and he pummeled me for it. So I wouldn't be surprised to be I'll be hearing about that for the next 5 or 6 years.
Nice. All right. Well, we'll be back with a wrap show next time to break down your votes, pull through your comments, and see what you've said on our Discord and social media. Keep the fight going on our Discord and our Patreon. You can join us at patreon.com/whowouldwinmasters. And if you think you've got what it takes to step into the challenger's chair, record a 1-minute video demo, send it to whowouldwinmasters@gmail.com. And who knows, we might see you in the challenger's chair in the future. For Who Would Win Masters, this is Sam Proof. Stay strong.